The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Andy.
That's so gentle.
Hi. Hi, everybody else too. Hi, everybody else.
Nice. I appreciate that, and I'm sure they do as well.
Yeah.
It's Thursday here at Second Breakfast, and indeed the rest of the world. And on Thursdays, we try to delve deeply into something, and we take a little longer to do it. One of the things we have done on occasion is highlight a movie that you may not have heard of or may not have seen that we think is worthy of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done. That's what we're planning to do, I should say, with today's podcast. Phil.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet, so.
That's right. I have faith in us, though.
Sure. Why not?
So, would you like to set up
Yes.
the day?
We're going to talk about a little movie by the name of Safety Not Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are talking about that today, right?
Indeed.
Andy and I actually were trying to talking yesterday about what movie we'd talk about today, and it would be great if I was like, Safety Not Guaranteed, and you were like, no, not at all, actually.
That's not what we agreed on.
I'll be back in 2 hours. I got to go watch something else.
Yeah. Indeed.
Safety Not Guaranteed was a little independent flick that came out back last year, 2012, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's starring Mark Duplass and the guy from New Girl, whose name I don't know, and Aubrey Plaza, who's the snarky girl from Parks and Rec.
Jake Johnson. Jake Johnson's the guy from New Girl you're looking for.
Who just for the record, the fact that I don't know his name doesn't mean that I don't love this guy. I am a huge fan of him on New Girl, and he does a great job in this movie. But it's a movie about there's the protagonist is Aubrey Plaza, a young lady who's still living at home with her dad. Her mom died a little while back, and she's living with her dad, and she has no real direction in life. She's working as an intern for free at a Seattle magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's got an idea for an article. They found a help wanted type of classified ad where someone was basically saying that they were going to travel back in time and they wanted someone to help them.
Can I? I have the text right here, and I love it. It's just so good.
Read it.
Wanted. Somebody to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. You'll get paid after we get back. Must bring your own weapons. Safety not guaranteed. I have only done this once before. I love it. There's so much there. Anyway, I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, I mean, so the movie is about that. That's the movie, right? The movie is about the response to such a ridiculous claim.
Yes.
And so the movie's about that deal, and I don't know what to say except that it's like really an unexpected film. Like it's an indie flick, so it's very small feeling and very kind of intimate. But it manages to suck you into this story. I don't know what I want. What do you want to give away? Because I know we want to talk about this movie. I mean, guide me, Andy Roth. You've seen it.
Okay. Well, this is okay. The setup is what Phil has described. What happens is the writer for Seattle Magazine, played by Jake Johnson, the guy from New Girl, he is the one who finds this wanted ad, and he takes two interns with him to actually a place, and it's actually in a place where he spent at least one summer growing up.
Right.
And so he takes Aubrey Plaza and this Indian kid who is at first you think the stereotypical high achieving Indian nerd, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it is the story of Aubrey Plaza, and it is, for lack of a more direct genre, because this sounds so pretentious. I think this defies all genre, but it really doesn't fit into anything. it is mostly a romantic comedy. I mean, you see relationships form.
I think based on the cast, if they were going to genre this movie, it would be genre like it would be classified as a comedy.
Yes. Sure.
And there are funny moments to be sure. And the cast is a comic, as you mentioned, comic actors. I'm going to say something that's sort of a criticism of the movie.
Okay.
For me, but it might not actually be a criticism for other people. If I had to pick a genre, it would be independent film, which sounds. Now, let me say what I mean by that, because it sounds like it felt like I was watching an independent movie. It felt like I was watching an independent movie from the 90s. It had this grainy quality, and it had this sort of the way that it was shot, frankly, and the score, and the pace. Like I felt like when I was in the 90s, was the sort of rebirth of independent cinema, or like the sort of like feeling of independent cinema, and I was at the same time a teenager and a movie lover, so I was watching all this stuff. I was watching all these independent movies, and I by and large didn't like them. I by and large was like, that would have been better if it had been done more professionally, like and less independently.
Sure.
And I'm kind of weird that way. It's like I'm almost a film snob in the other direction, where like I staunchly like things with high production value and good like music and all that. It's a really like I don't know what you call that except for annoying and contrarian. But so I'm not proud about the fact. Like I'm always embarrassed. Like I would watch a movie and be like, I know I'm supposed to be liking this, but I'm just and maybe also, so anyway, I had that feeling during this movie. I enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad I saw it, and I have a lot of lovely things to say about it, I think, or to say about what lovely things are in the movie, I should say. But there were points where I was just like, this just feels like I'm watching an independent movie. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and
and not independent like fiercely independent and so different, just like, oh, I'm watching a genre. Like if independent was a genre, this would fit in that genre.
I agree with that. I don't know that if I were to say that it would be a compliment, but I don't think it's an insult either. I think it's just sort of what it is. We've talked a lot about unexpected things happening in movies. And the fact that we watch a lot of movies, and because we watch a lot of movies, strangely, twist movies always seem to get the both of us. But if it isn't a twist movie, we can lay out the entire plot, seemingly, by the time we finished watching the trailer, right? And that's not to brag. It just we watch a lot of movies, and so that's a byproduct of it. It's more a critique of modern movies than it is fair. That's fair too.
A bragging of ourselves.
At no point in this movie was I confident I knew what was coming next.
Nope.
Even when I was like, oh, they could do that, and it turned out to be similar to what ended up happening, at no moment was I like, I'm convinced that this is what's going to happen next.
This movie, I think that's a very, very good point. That this movie, never once did I feel. Well, that's not true. There's one point, but even the way they did it. But like, I was like, you're watching this movie and you're like, oh, she's gonna fall in love with him. I felt, and my wife said out loud, she's gonna fall in love with him.
Sure.
And I don't know if she falls in love with. No, she does. She falls in love with him. Yeah. She does.
Yeah.
And which is and other than that though, and the manner in which she does, and the way that what you think it's going to do for the relationship isn't what it does, or the way that they address everything once they fall in love is not what you think it's going to. I mean, the whole thing. It's just, anyways.
Yeah. Can I say this, and I hope this will spur conversation. Do you want to know the single thing I love most about this movie?
No. Oh,
this
sorry.
This has been another Second Breakfast. I'm Andy Roth, on Seinfeld Evolve. So here's the deal.
Yes, tell me.
All of the main characters. You've got the guy who thinks he can go back in time. You've got the journalist. You've got his two interns. You've got a woman from somebody's past. You've got two women from various people's pasts.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are bad people, but that's not the important thing. What's important is so many times in movies, people are just what the plot needs them to be, and it just is. Oh, I have to be. I remember in college. I don't know if you went with us. A group of us saw The Object of My Affection.
I was not with you.
The one where Jennifer Aniston falls in love with Paul Rudd playing a homosexual man, and there's a character who is literally homophobic. He is not homophobic, and then the plot requires him to be homophobic, and then by the end of the movie, it wants to be a happy ending, so he's not homophobic again. And it's like, really? I mean, is that what you're going to do? Okay.
Gee, that sounds like a great movie.
Oh my God, you got to watch it. Put it at the top of your queue. Ugh. Every single one of these characters in Safety Not Guaranteed, every single one of them, you get the sense that you're not seeing all of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like they have a life before this movie started.
Yes.
They will have a life after the movie ends. And you see there are many important moments. And that's why the movie is sort of that bracket of time.
Yes.
But
and they're tied together in a way that I think that makes the movie very thematically consistent.
Yes.
The movie is about regret.
Yes.
That's what it's chiefly about. And about our desire to go back in time and change what we did.
If I knew then what I know now. Yes.
Right. That's the movie. It's a meditation on that idea.
Yes.
But what Andy points out is so well said. Andy, you said it perfectly. And I think, what happens after the movie is over, we don't know. And my wife even said, I guess we don't get to find out what happens after blankety blank, after the movie ends.
Right.
And yeah, you don't. And obviously it would be kind of cool to know. Like,
sure.
Come on.
Yes, it would be.
But
yes.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because what the movie's about is, like you said, it's about regret. And rather than being about these characters, and therefore, how do we get this person and this person together? Like that's in a lot of movies. Okay, here's Harry, here's Sally. How do we get them together?
Let's put obstacles in their way.
Although Harry Met Sally is a bad example because I think that movie is about something larger than that.
Agreed.
But a general romantic comedy or even a general comedy is we've got hero, we've got heroine. How do we get hero and heroine together? Like how do we get the two protagonists together at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
And then what kind of characters do we want to make them? What are their quirks going to be? How are we going to make them interesting? This movie feels, Safety Not Guaranteed, almost feels like they were like, okay, how do we take these existing people? How do we show what regret looks like for these people that already exist?
That is so well said.
You could do a whole other movie that's about a completely different thing with these characters.
Yeah. Yes.
And
even throwaway parts like Jeff Garlin plays Aubrey Plaza's dad, and Jeff Garlin, who you'd know.
I would have watched a whole movie about Aubrey Plaza and Jeff Garlin.
Yes, and he's in the movie for literally 30 seconds,
maybe a minute, maybe.
A minute, maybe. Yes, and I mean they're sitting and they're talking while they have Chinese food. That's it.
Yeah. I don't even want to give away anything that conversation is about though, because it's perfect.
It's amazing.
It's perfect conversation. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. Jeff Garlin is, his name is Jeff Green on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. He's Larry David's manager / best friend. Mm-hmm. And for the record, Curb Your Enthusiasm is my favorite sitcom of all time.
Nice.
So Jeff Garlin is like, I mean, he's one of those guys that when he goes on the screen, I'm like, yay! Yeah, love him.
Yeah. There are so many things I want to say. For example, there is a moment when Jake Johnson's character is asked to describe his life, and he names 3 things that he has. He talks about his job. He talks about the fact that he has an Escalade. And that he's got a sweet condo.
Right. And then the girl that he's talking to his high school sweetheart, by the way, who he hasn't seen since he was in high school. And she goes, yeah, but tell me about your life.
He's like, I just did.
And he means it. No irony.
Right, right. But that isn't where that character ends up. The things that happen during this movie force everyone in the movie to examine why they think certain things that they hold very, very dear.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with characters who only exist because the movie exists. These are people who are lived in. These are people who are lived in. I can't say enough about the work that Aubrey Plaza does in this movie. She'll
never be a leading lady because she's doesn't look like a leading lady, which is a weird thing to say because first of all, she is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes. Yes.
And
totally
secondly,
gorgeous.
she is well, that shouldn't be first of all, but I say that first of all in terms of leading lady. Like what's a leading lady have?
No.
Although yeah, and secondly,
No, agreed.
she is just I think she's really funny. I think she's a really good actor. I love her on Parks and Rec. She manages to be this particular character on Parks and Rec without it never gets tired. She plays a variation on that theme. I'm not sure. I'd like to see her branch out, but this is a variation of that, as was her small role in Scott Pilgrim.
Right.
But there's so much. This is a real person in this movie, and she's such a good actor.
Yeah.
And she absolutely leads this movie. Like, she absolutely is, like, she could carry a movie. She just did it in this movie.
Absolutely.
She carries the movie so much, and this is not a complaint about the other parts of the movie. I love the subplot with what's her boss's name? Jake
Johnson.
Jake Johnson and his high school sweetheart.
Loved.
I love it. But the entire time that Aubrey Plaza is not on the screen, I remember consciously thinking, when do we see her again?
Sure.
And it's not because it's not like because she's eye candy. That's actually not the point.
Right.
Like, because her character is so engrossing, I want to know more about her. This movie is so incomplete.
In the best way.
In the best way.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Because
So,
just real quick, you say you could watch a movie. You could watch a movie about Aubrey Plaza and her dad. I agree with that. I could watch a movie about Jake Johnson and his high school sweetheart. I could watch a movie
that could have
about Jake Johnson and his boss at Seattle Magazine.
I thought you were going to say about the Indian intern.
And I would save that for last.
His name was
because
Aaron or something like that? Arno.
Because
I would have watched a movie just about Jake and Arno, together.
Absolutely would.
I'd watch a sitcom about that in a heartbeat.
Indeed. I would watch that movie all the time.
It would have to be made by the same people because the tone of this movie is so particular.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to see it they took all these characters, all these actors that I'm used to seeing as really sort of comical, and they weren't comical in this movie for the most part, but the movie is genuinely funny.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. I would watch a movie about Mark Duplass's character and the girl he goes back for, or he wants to go back for.
Yeah. All of this being said, I still didn't love this movie. I just really liked it. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
Tell me more.
I think I said it before. I think that there was the
indie feel of it. Is that what you?
Just kind of it puts it. Okay. When I was in college, my brother gave me a pair of jeans. And these jeans, this matters tremendously.
And then you met a lion, and the lion had a splinter in his paw. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is why we have the long form podcast, so I can tell stories like this.
Second Breakfast Nation, he's not wrong. Please continue. You got a pair of
jeans.
jeans.
I'm not right either, but I'm certainly not wrong. My brother gave me a pair of jeans, and there's a company you may have heard of. They're called Diesel Jeans. Indeed. Diesel is a fairly expensive jean company. Hence, my brother giving me hand-me-downs.
Indeed.
and they were pretty hip. Like they were pretty like at the time. I don't know if they still are. I honestly don't know, but they were like, you buy diesel jeans, and like, ooh. So I had these diesel jeans. Now they were also really comfortable, and I loved them. So when I was done with them, I decided I was going to buy a new pair of jeans. And we lived in Somerville, and there was a diesel jean place. There's one on Newbury Street in Boston, and there was one in Harvard Square.
I remember this trip. I went with you.
Oh my god!
Continue. I don't remember anything except that we went shopping for diesel jeans because there was this
Then
store
maybe
nearby.
you remember the way you felt when you walked into the diesel jean shop, which was that the dork alarm was going to go off and they were going to kick us out.
Yes, right.
Like, I remember distinctly feeling like I don't belong here, but I still want a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
There are places where I go and I look around and I just wait for the dork alarm to go off.
Right.
To some degree, indie movies give me this feeling like I'm waiting for the dork alarm to go off and someone's going to be like, I'm sorry, this movie's not for you.
Interesting, because the dork alarm would be the other way.
Philip. Right. Sorry, Philip. You watch popcorn movies.
Right.
I'm sure there's a new superhero film coming out tomorrow. You can watch that with your 3D glasses and your big thing of popcorn.
I like how
We're all drinking coffee.
I like how the dork police are like
brioche while we watch our movie here.
I like how the dork police are like an indiscriminate European bad guy from like a Bond movie. Okay.
I mean, my brain is a mass of stereotypes. So there is a feeling of detachment that I have a little bit. I have a feeling if I watched this movie a second time, I would be more into it. But I felt like I was being held at a distance. The main guy. I get that she falls in love with this guy, but he is legitimately crazy. And like they do stuff like, oh, he has a fake ear, and like works at a grocery store, and
yes.
Why she falls in love with him basically, and I don't think this is a spoiler, unless it is. I don't know. Is his genuineness, his authenticity.
Yes.
She basically falls in love with someone for being authentic, which is great. And it's a great statement about our generation. I really think that. Like, I mean that.
Yeah.
Like, our generation is so concerned with authenticity.
Yeah.
Certainly more so than our parents' generation. It's like this thing that matters to us. Like, we're fanatic about it.
Yes.
So the idea of her falling in love with this guy, despite the fact that he's basically crazy and a loser, because he's authentic, is a very interesting idea.
That's true. I forgot what I was going to say. There is a conversation that at least Jake Johnson and Aubrey Plaza have with these, not to give too much away, there are these people that appear to be following the protagonist. And finally, there is a conversation with them about what is actually going on.
Right.
And one of them, one of the things that Jake Johnson says is we're journalists. And one of the people that they're having a conversation with says, "What's the story about?" And he's like, "I don't even know anymore." And I was like, that was a little meta. That moment, that was the most indie feeling moment for me.
I don't even know anymore.
Right. It's not said that ridiculously. It is.
It
is said more, but it's not said that ridiculously. But the words in and of themselves are ridiculous. But as ever, that's artifice, and as we have discussed multiple times, I don't really mind artifice in my movies.
No.
The
Do you feel like the movie is quirky just to be quirky?
I don't, and I think, and I couldn't put I would not have been able to answer that question until you just said everything you just said, because what I think it is It is quirky to show us all of their journeys to authenticity.
Okay.
Because the first time, because Aubrey Plaza is, the first time you see her, she is in, she's like sarcasming her way through a job interview, right?
Yeah.
The first time you see Jake Johnson is nothing but irony and sarcasm balled up and put into human form, and by the end, he is not only authentic, he's so self-involved. He's a guy that, again, and I want to steer clear of spoilers. He's a guy that when he's asked about his life, he's basically the only thing he says is, "I have an Escalade and a sweet condo."
Right.
And at the end, he is not only authentic, he is helping someone else. And you have Arno, the Indian.
His not only is he helping someone else, but then his the final like shot of him or the final moment of him, he is reduced to complete geek.
That's very well said. That's
Like
very
he has
well
nothing
said.
to do but just cheer like a crazy person. It's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes, I in that moment I have no artifice. I am just my honest response to the thing that I am looking at. Arno, you would think interestingly, you would think that like the stereotypical Indian nerd, like, oh, the lesson is he's going to be himself, like he's already himself, but that's not it. The first time you see him really is he's talking about why there are flame stickers on his laptop, right? And it's just like and we've all met someone whose life is like, oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Like, I get that you're doing what you love, and that's great, and that's close to authenticity, but that's not like. But you also have the same urges and desires that every one of us has, and as long as you are hiding behind your laptop with flame stickers on it, that is an impediment to you realizing those goals and desires.
Yeah.
And that is the journey that he takes.
Yeah.
Even the ancillary characters have journeys of their own. Most notably, Jake Johnson's high school sweetheart.
I wanted to know so much more about her.
So much more about her.
Like, this is a good point. Okay, so here's the thing, right, guys? When you're watching a movie, when you're watching like a romantic comedy or a drama or something like that, or whatever, like a typical movie, you have these supporting characters who it's like literally, well, we need to have like a moment with the guy's ex-girlfriend, so we got to make her gorgeous, and we've got to make her either comically or like either statuesquely gorgeous or comically ugly, and then we have to make them their whole existence is about bouncing off of the character we actually care about,
right,
to further his story.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, when they show her for the last time, I'm thinking, wait, is that going to be the last time? Oh God, I hope that's not the last time.
Yes.
Wait, what's going to happen with her? And not like they'd better tell me or the movie's not good, but like, I really want to know. I genuinely cared about a woman who was in 2 scenes. Genuinely cared.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe three scenes, but genuinely cared.
You know, and I mean, perhaps unsurprisingly, the word that you just used that I am most attracted to is genuinely. I mean, I really think you hit it. I think you hit the heart of it when you started talking about authenticity. I prize. It's funny because I don't mind artifice in my movies, but I want it to be, this sounds counterintuitive, but I want the artifice to be in search of a larger truth.
Sure.
And so often, and I agree with this, our generation we're sort of pulled in 2 directions, right?
When you say, real quick, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, but hold on to your question. We're pulled in 2 directions. We have things like the internet and like popular comedies these days, and most of them seem to be ironic or commentary on, and I realize that I am saying this on a movie commentary podcast, but what are you going to do? And so we are the first generation that has that has had an easy forum to be anonymous and sarcastic, and so and we engage in that. We hide behind screens of anonymity, but I think that in our personal lives, I certainly most of the people I know, maybe it's a response to that. We're looking for what's real. Just give me what's real, and what I mean when I say these characters are lived in outside the boundaries of this movie, they seem real. I am genuinely interested in what happens to these people because I'm genuinely interested in what happens to real people. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that made any sense at all.
It absolutely makes sense. Andy, I'm not kidding. I was taking notes while you were talking. Like, I'm taking notes about what you're saying so that I know what I want to address, and so that I know that because you've said so much there that I want to make sure that I make a comment on, okay. And that I want to respond to, because I think that there's so much there and I'm going to try to figure out if I can then tie it back to the movie. I'm not sure if I can. I'm going to try.
Fair. I also don't want to leave your question if you still want to ask it.
I have my question, and I will ask it, but I want to say a couple things based on what you said first.
Please.
I think, first of all, to defend what we do on our show is we do both, like, it's like me complaining about movie reviewers, except we review movies. Or you were saying, like, people go on and comment about things, but that's what we're doing. But here's the thing, and I think you're right, and I'm going to not brag about us, but talk about what I hope we're doing. My hope. Our hope from when we first started doing this show, and will continue to be our vision, our mission, is to talk to be as like ridiculously grandiose about two guys talking on Skype as possible.
Indeed.
Is that we want to create something where we express our love for something, and we actually try to talk. I mean, like, we're sitting here talking at length about what we like about something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We don't really spend energy. Like, we don't do a podcast once a week called Movies We Hate.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Actors that suck. Like, that's not a thing we do.
Right. Yeah.
So we try to really focus on the things that are fun and fantastic and wonderful about film. And so I hope that matters. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you would classify what we do as, but I hope it makes a difference. Like, for instance, and my wife and I were discussing this the other day, that you and I don't actually debate. Like, she was like, you and Andy debate things. And I was like,
Actually, I agree with that. We
from time to time we do.
Yes.
We've done, like, the thing where we take opposing sides on purpose.
Right.
But then it's always funny because if you watch those episodes of us where if you guys have ever watched or listened to our, like, Indefensible Position, which we should do one at some point in the near future. But Andy and I will take sides against each other, and then we'll switch sides. But by the end, we're like, can we stop fighting and just talk about why we both love the thing?
It's true.
Like, we'd much rather just enjoy agreeing. It's really weird. Like, people enjoy bickering. Andy and I don't, like, sometimes Andy will say something and I just totally disagree with him, but after disagreeing with you, I'll just be like, okay. Would that I could do that in my marriage, I would be a much better husband. Would that I could do that.
Nice. Nice. Well said.
And I think your example of, like, snarkiness, I mean, people do it on Facebook, but I'll tell you, to me, it's why I don't go on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
Twitter just became a platform for people to throw out zingers that were by and large mean.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm done. I only have so much time. You know, like,
yes.
What? Yeah. And I waste a lot of it, trust me, but I try to waste it on things that are fun.
It's later than you think.
That are just mean.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's later than you think.
Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines ever. This thing you're talking about, which is the desire for genuineness, and then I'll come back to my question for you.
Okay.
Your desire for genuineness. And by the way, I think for this movie, Safety Not Guaranteed, I don't think I recognized this until we were talking about it. And I actually am I would now look forward to watching this movie again. Like when I watched it last night, I watched it. I was like, this is a good movie, but I'm really interested in what Andy wants to talk about because I wouldn't think we should do a whole podcast on that movie.
Right.
And I'm so glad that you had us do that because it has helped me enjoy the movie more in retrospect and makes me want to watch it again. The desire for what's real in my business, in the church business, okay, people don't care as much as they used to what denomination you belong to, and they don't necessarily care if they love all the music. There's this big thing like, oh, we've got to make our music more like what everybody likes.
Okay.
Not actually. Here's the thing. I mean, you shouldn't play music that's terrible and that people can't sing.
Yeah. Sure.
But-
Valid.
But people will go out of their way to go into something they don't necessarily fit into perfectly if they feel like they're part of something real.
Yeah.
The degree to which I am successful at my job is the degree to which I am able to communicate authenticity. That is the degree to which I am successful. The degree to which I am not successful is the degree to which I have not fully been able to communicate the authenticity of this thing. And I'm telling you, the future of the church and the future of any faith organization in America is going to be, it's got to be up based on authenticity. People our generation, you don't go anymore just because you have to.
Right.
Now it has to be like there's this hunger because we all saw people who said be like this and they weren't like that.
Right.
And you don't see that. This movie isn't about that. This movie isn't about hypocrisy, actually.
Right.
It
That's true.
isn't about hypocrisy. It's about, like, you use the word artifice in the sense of putting up your own thing.
Yeah.
But here's my so that's my response to you.
Well
Now
said.
here's my question to you, because you use the word artifice in relation to this movie, and you've said now it's sort of been a mantra for you lately when we've talked.
Mhm.
I don't mind artifice, and Phil does. When you say that, because then it implies that I only watch documentaries.
Oh no,
and
I certainly
you
don't
think.
mean to imply anything.
no,
Yeah.
No, but here's my question.
Yeah.
When you say that, when you say continually, or repeatedly, I should say, when you say repeatedly, I don't mind artifice, what do you think you mean when you say that? What are you trying to communicate to the audience? And when you're talking to us and you say, I don't mind artifice, can you dumb that down a little bit? Can you or stretch that out a little bit?
Sure, I can. Well, I to start, I think it means different things for different movies. For older movies, what I mean is there was a different kind of acting, right? I mean, when I watch Singing in the Rain, which actually has more modern acting than most movies of its time, there are still moments that are presentational.
Sure.
But I don't care. It doesn't. That is artifice. Literally, that is artifice, and I don't mind it because it doesn't take away from my enjoying the larger truth that movie is trying to convey. I find that with more recent movies, more modern movies, it has much more to do with the director, with the filmmaker, for example. And just to drive home the point that I am not implying that you are categorically against artifice, I think perhaps the two most artifice-filled directors are two that I know you love, Wes Anderson and Quentin Tarantino.
Interesting.
Because you cannot forget you are watching a movie when you watch Pulp Fiction and it jumps around in time. You can't.
Sure.
You cannot forget you're watching a movie when Moonrise Kingdom has probably less than 10 camera movements in the entire movie that are in and out. All of them are on a plane, two-dimensional, right?
Storytelling. They're telling stories.
That's right. And with Quentin Tarantino, he is absolutely getting at a larger truth, and with Wes Anderson specifically with Moonrise Kingdom, he's showing you a diorama. That's what he's doing. That's what the movie is. It's a diorama. But within the diorama that it sets up, everything is absolutely real and everything is genuine.
I think Okay, sorry. Do you want to?
I could go on, but does that make sense? That's the kind of
It
thing I'm
does.
talking
It
about.
does, but it's developed from a different. Originally, when I was objecting to something and you called it artifice, it really was something different, which to me was manufactured emotion, and that's different, right? So, because I
Yeah,
was originally this conversation leapt out of our disagreement, or me just basically saying, and I don't like to talk about things I don't like, but me basically talking about what I don't like about Aaron Sorkin's writing and writers like that, which is this, and what I don't like about the beginning and ending of Saving Private Ryan, which is a desire, or Mr. Holland's opus, a
sure,
desire to manufacture within me, the viewer, a specific thing, and not the desire to communicate from something from myself, but my desire for you to believe what I believe. That's not the same thing. So does that make sense? So artifice, as you've just described it, I'm 100% on board with. I mean, every Sunday I put on a robe and then another robe over it. And then I stand in front of people in front of a table that I call an altar. And I say these words, I chant or speak these words that have been spoken for, hundreds or thousands of years in a very ritualistic setting. And and I give people this bread, which is supposed to be Jesus. Clearly, I'm okay with artifice.
I do.
I love movies so much, and the movies, and I love storytellers. I get, I'm that guy in life who, when I feel like someone's trying to handle me, I'm, I'm about done. Like I can't, it doesn't take long. If I even feel it, I'm even probably a little oversensitive about it. If I feel like someone's trying to handle me, I'm like, we're not, this is over.
Sure.
So when I feel like a movie is trying to handle me, what I love about Wes Anderson is I feel like he has to use that artifice because it's the only way he can be himself. And I'd say the same about Quentin Tarantino.
Nice.
It's the only way they can be authentic and genuine is by being that way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll say about this movie, about Safety Not Guaranteed, is that likewise, I didn't feel at first. I was like, are they just trying to like be quirky?
Right.
And I got the feeling by the end of the movie that this was the only way that they could tell the story was by making the characters, by creating the characters they created.
Yeah.
And so while it had artifice, as you would say, I didn't feel like it was inauthentic. And that's the difference to me.
That's extremely well said, and you helped crystallize for me what I really mean by artifice. And what I mean by artifice is that thing that you described being on board for. There is a difference in my mind between artifice and manipulation.
Right.
And I have two things to say about that. One, they do often go hand in hand. One is often used for the other, right?
Right.
Artifice is often used for manipulation.
Yeah.
But also, the manipulation is not necessarily a bad thing, right? In some sense, every movie. Just hear me out. Just hear me out. This is a completely semantic argument, so I don't want to dwell on it.
Okay.
But it isn't like Quentin Tarantino doesn't know what emotions he is likely provoking in you. It's that he's honest about it, right? And I think that's where someone like Aaron Sorkin falls flat. The reason to bring it back to the difference between the two of us, another form of artifice, and this is actually the kind of artifice that I'm sort of most, I enjoy the most, if you will, is artifice in dialogue, artifice in the screenplay, because I talk funny, like I don't talk like a lot of other people talk. I quote a lot of movies, and what that is, that distances me from people, and I try and be authentic while I do it, and try to be authentic when I'm not quoting movies. But that sort of artifice, it's all about the words, right? And so when during sports night, one of Aaron Sorkin's characters goes on a monologue, it's not that I see myself in them because I agree with them necessarily, or it's because a well-turned phrase is something that I actually think about in my own life.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I don't say that to imply that you don't. But
No, well, I mean, let's face it. You talk weird, and I talk like everybody else. I'm pretty normal, so
Nice.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that for a while.
It's true. You
But
are
it's an
Captain
interesting point of
Normal.
view. Think about the difference between Sports Night, which is an okay show, and but think about the difference between Sports Night and 30 Rock, which both of them every single line is a zinger, but I don't know. It's different. I have to think about it. For some reason, 30 Rock, the most artifice-filled show maybe of the last 10 years, manages to feel very real.
You will get no argument from me on that.
I don't know. I want to think more about this.
Yeah.
This is a continuing conversation, and I hope that we haven't gone so far away from safety not guaranteed. But I hope that this conversation that we're having makes people want to see safety not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I hope we've talked about it in a way that I hope we are talking about it in a way, or maybe we're wrapping up. I don't know, but we're talking about it in a way that makes people go, that was spoiler free. I hope, or close enough.
Close enough.
I know, but there are some people who are like, I'm not going to listen to your podcast till I've seen the movie. I'm like, well then, we might as well just do spoilers if you're going to be that way, America. By the way, if you listen to this podcast without having seen the movie, please let us know. I'd love to know. I want to know. I want to hear from people. Do you listen to this or watch this before you've seen this movie?
Yeah.
Or do you go and see the movie because you notice we talked about it? I'm very curious.
Yeah. Leave a comment on the YouTube video or on our WordPress page, secondbreakfastpodcast.com, or email us at secondbreakfastpodcast at gmail.com. Because I agree, and that is.
I almost feel like we need to do a better job. We need to title the movie "Watch This, Then Watch Safety Not Guaranteed."
Nice. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Or watch this podcast about a movie you should see, something like that, so that people don't. It's I had a friend who was like, I finally saw Wreck-It Ralph, and I was like, oh, did you listen? Well, I never listened to your podcast because I hadn't seen it yet, and I was like, we worked so hard to make that podcast so that people would see the movie.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Now this is a white man's complaint. I got no real problems in the world of this issue.
It's true.
Really.
I do want to impress upon people that while it is an independent movie, while it is sort of from the most high-minded perspective, a story about artifice giving way to authenticity and genuineness, it is also a really fun movie to watch.
Oh yeah. It's a blast.
I was
never bored.
No,
I was never bored, and the performances are really great, and there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of funny lines in it, and really good moments.
Yeah.
The scene at the high school football game was just
have a beer. Yes.
You made pie. I made apple pie, pumpkin pie, and strawberry rhubarb. Which would you like? Yes. There's so many lines in that movie like that. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. So
you look like a pilot, like a cool pilot.
Like a cool pilot.
It is. And we're not even talking those. None of those are lines from ostensibly the two main characters in the movie. And trust me, Aubrey Plaza and Mark Duplass have a ton of memorable lines. Well,
that's interesting. You and I I want to talk about that after when this show's over. I would love to know what you thought were memorable lines, because for me, part of the thing with Aubrey Plaza is she manages to be wholly memorable and hypnotic and interesting, truly complex and interesting without being clever.
That's true.
Her character on Parks and Rec is so every line is just cutting and genius. Mm-hmm. And on this, I wasn't I want to write down everything she says, and yet I was so drawn to who she was and interested in what she had to say. If that makes sense.
Yes. To avoid spoilers, here is my response.
Please.
The line that she says during the quote unquote chase scene.
Yeah.
Yes. The little song she makes up on the spot when she's sitting in the van alone,
Yeah. Yes.
and pretty much the entire first conversation she has with Mark Duplass in the supermarket. Those are all extremely memorable lines for me. They are, and it's just a great movie. Like, I know that it's like, oh wow, you took almost
I
an hour
really
to say
wanted.
it's a great movie, but
I think, and I don't want to end on this note because that's not a great note. But I think that for me, it was I would.
it doesn't have to be a
There's a
great movie
moment
for you.
when one of the characters sings a song,
Yes,
and it's better than any of the music that the movie has in it.
yes,
And the music's not bad. So if you're watching this and you scored the movie, I'm sorry, but the movie's not bad. But the music's not bad at all. But again, we were talking earlier, or we were talking. You and I were talking earlier about the movie Away We Go, not in this podcast, but earlier in The Way We Go. And I feel like one of the defining features of that film is it has the music carries and tells the story.
yeah,
And I feel like that could have been the case in this movie. That there could have, or Parenthood, the TV show Parenthood, right?
yeah.
The music has this sense that drives it. And I feel like the music here was a score, but it wasn't memorable. And I feel like a memorable piece of music that would drove this thing, or songs that were played, since this is our generation, you could have just done radio songs,
Yeah.
would have really taken this movie to the next level for me. I'll just speak for me.
And I mean that's
That
really
wasn't a concern for you. No worries.
well. I mean we've already established that music is more important to you than it is to me. And
True.
and not only that, if the rest of the score were memorable, I wonder if that scene, the scene, would stick out as much, because as it stands now, that is. That scene is just about perfect, and
That's a
and-
perfect scene.
and I just
No, it's a great scene. It really is.
and it would be great if the rest of the movie, if the rest of the score were elevated.
Sure, and I think that was one of those things that the score sounded. It wasn't bad. It just sounded like indie movie score, and I wanted it to be something different. But
Fair.
honestly, I people should see this movie. And don't listen to my little niggling complaints because they're tiny. This movie is not too cool for you.
Right.
Conversely, you are not too cool for this movie.
That is very well said. I want to let's end on that
Yes.
because that is brilliantly said. Yeah, safety not guaranteed. Watch it,
Watch it.
and that'll do it for today. We are Second Breakfast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Listen to our jingle.
The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.